firm. We are 10-year-old now, and we are one of the most quoted analyst firm right now across the globe on smartphones, increasingly on IoT and chipsets and other places. So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to talk about this important and a timely topic, which is M2M, or rather I should say it's more about IoT ESIM standards. So if you look at the end of 2022, 2.6 billion connections were there on IoT, cellular IoT, which is pretty remarkable. And going forward, our team at Counterpoint Research, we are projecting that this number is going to cross 5 billion, which is a very healthy growth rate of over 14% annually. But going forward, a lot of growth is going to come from low power wide area network, which is LPWA. And these are the kind of network, or the devices on these networks are powering different applications like asset trackers, smart meters, agriculture sensors and other things. We are projecting that the growth in this, in LPWA devices is going to be almost twice that of the overall market. So it's going to outpace the overall market by a significant margin. However, there are challenges when it comes to the current M2M standards. So if you look at the current M2M standards, it's based on push and it relies on the SMTP and SMSR infrastructure quite a lot. And there are significant challenges because of this particular architecture that we have. So in this architecture, we need the connection between SMSR and the EIUC through an SMS. And most of the LPWA networks or devices, they do not have the capability of getting an SMS or HTTP protocols are also not there. The consumer specification of the consumer way of eSIM does not work in this case, because in most of the cases the user interface is either limited or it's not available at all. And the biggest problem is the SMSR lock-in. So migration today is virtually impossible if you want to move from one service provider to another, because there are issues wherein you have to get the competing parties to have the contracts with each other. So overall, this is what is impeding the progress of eSIMs in the IoT segment. And this gets manifested if you look at the number of RSPs. The consumer RSPs are far more than the M2M or the IoT RSPs. Just to give you a perspective, the consumer IoT, RSP deployments, they are 3 times that of the M2M. So there has been demand from the industry for a standard, or eSIM standard that is comparable to consumer standard. And last year, GSMA did come up with a new standard which is modeled on the consumer eSIM specifications. It's pretty much the same. The one key differentiation that is there is that the LPA, which has been broken into 2 parts now, EIM and the IPA. And EIM is essentially helping it takes the user away from the IoT, and the devices that are there, they can get directly, they can get the subscription directly from the SMTP plus. So that's the advantage of this particular specification, and we do believe that this standard is going to help simplify the deployments in IoT in a big way. So what are the expectations of the industry from the new standards? The industry really wants to simplify the deployment of IoT eSIMs, and they have expectations right from the production to deployment to the life cycle. So on the production side, especially on the manufacturing side, they want minimal dependencies on the third party. On the deployment, they want faster time to market, simplified architecture, and integrations that can work on a wide range of devices, including the LPWA devices. And finally, on the life cycle, they want to facilitate remote management through they need to manage the entire life cycle of the fleet, and they want seamless orchestration, which means they should be able to switch from one service provider to another in a very seamless way. So orchestration is really important going forward. So once we get these specifications, everybody in the ecosystem is going to win. Whether you look at the MNOs, any MNO which has SMTP plus comes into the play, and they can extend their services to cover the IoT market as well. And they will be able to leverage the current RSP platform as well as the APIs. OEMs, again, they will be able to partner with far more players. They will be able to partner with a larger set of MNOs, and they will be able to use the local connectivity providers, which is very important to be able to provide the services in a much more seamless as well as cost-effective way. And finally, even enterprises, they will be having more choice for the connectivity providers, as well as they will be able to bring their own connectivity. So overall, industry has a lot of expectations, and we do believe that everybody would be in a situation where we'll be able to win. And as a result of this, what we are projecting at Counterpoint is that if you look at the total ESIM today on IoT cellular devices, it's roughly 18%, but in the next 8 odd years, the eSIM proportion is going to go to at least 60%. So that's the difference that these new standards are going to make. They're going to simplify the process of deployment. More and more device players are going to come up and adopt eSIM. And in terms of the timelines, our understanding, and if you look at last year, we had the new standards that were the new standard requirements that came in. Last week, GSMA came up with the new specifications, but still there's a long road before we will have fully certified products in the market. The compliance process is expected early next year, and if you look at the products, fully compliant products will be somewhere later in the year next year. So still a long way to go, and we do foresee that the current M2M standard will be in play for a long time, because you have devices that are there on the current standard. The replacement cycles are pretty long. So these devices are going to continue on to the current standard, and hence there would be a need to maintain the two standards simultaneously. Moreover, if you look at the final solution, so there are at MWC, and there were other announcements wherein we saw some of the players who are working on the new solution, even if the specifications were not out. And we do believe that these solutions are going to be pretty close to the final compliant processes, because the consumer specifications have been heavily referenced. So it should not be a problem, and we expect these solutions to hit the market towards the end of the year. But the mass adoption will really happen when the module players will start adopting, and when they come into the market. That is not likely to happen before next year. So it's still a long road in terms of the timelines for these specifications. Again, what can the MNOs and the MVNOs do in the meantime? There are two options. One is maintain status quo, but then there's a long wait before we have the compliant products. And in my opinion, this is not a viable option for most of the players, except for the players who are already there in M2M on M2M platforms. So what they can do is start preparing themselves for the new specifications. So players who have the SMTP plus they can start integrating with the M2M backend systems. They can start scaling it up, upgrading the SMTP plus to include the metadata that is required for IoT. They can start testing different devices, because end-to-end devices, there's a lot of testing that would be